Hey, Bodacious Beast, welcome back to my channel. My name is ScottyAllenDay. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about a person that was not invited to the British invasion in 1958, 1960, and he was one of the first British rock and rollers. Now, if you're looking through the comments of this particular person, they said that he could have possibly been the first heavy metal rock and roller that came out of Britain. He was actually the first record that came out of Britain and the first official rock and roll song that came out of the United Kingdom. But, however, the more that I'm reading through this story, I want you to pay attention, because this is amazing on how somebody can influence somebody else to change who they are. So today we're going to talk a little bit about Cliff Richard and the Drifters. Cliff Richard was born as Harry Roger Webb in 1948. He is the United Kingdom's first known rock and roller. He has a total sales of over 21.5 million singles in the United Kingdom. He is the third top selling artist in UK singles chart history, behind the Beatles and Elvis Presley. Harry Webb became the lead singer of the rock and roll group The Drifters, distinct from the US group of the same name. The 1950s entrepreneur Harry Greatorex wanted the up-and-coming rock and roll singer to change his name to Cliff. The name Cliff was adopted, and it sounded like Cliff Face, which suggested rock. And it was the movement writer Ian Samuel that suggested the surname Richard as a tribute to Webb's musical hero, Little Richard. So right now we're already getting somebody who's saying, okay, let's take away from Harry Webb. Really doesn't sound catchy enough with Harry Webb, but Roger Webb would have probably been even better, because, well, we have several that, you know, so already they're changing his name. Now, before their first large-scale appearance at the Regal Ballroom in Ripley, Derbyshire in 1958, they adopted the name Cliff Richard and the Drifters. The four members were Harry Webb, by then going under the stage name Cliff Richard, Ian Samuel on the guitar, Terry Smart on the drums, and Norman Mittam on the guitar. None of the other three played with each other, and better known as the Shadows, which is after the Drifters. Although Samuel wrote songs for Richard's later career, agent George Ganju saw the group perform in London and recommended him to Norrie Paramore for an audition. Cliff is the 1958 debut album of the British singer Cliff Richard and the band The Drifters, later known as The Shadows again. They changed the name again. And then we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later down the line. Sorry, my notes are a little bit jumbled, because there's just so much information on this person. So eventually I'll get it fixed, and then later on, once I'm, better at what I'm doing, I'll give you a much better story. But for right now, I'm in the early stages of building what I want to build. Let's see, where am I at on my notes? So the album is a live-in the studio recording of Richard and the Shadows' early rock and roll in front of an invited audience of several hundred fans. So you're going to have the screaming, you have the applause, you're going to have the clapping, that sort of thing. It was recorded over 2 nights during February 1959 in my notes. in Studio 2 in EMI Recording Studios. Now this is later known as the Abbey Road Recording Studios, with Norman Paramore as the producer. The album contains renderings of Richard's hit single Move It. Now keep in mind, Move It is the B-side of the original pressing of the record. Again, this is the second time that I've read something that somehow on the B-side became the biggest hit. Both tracks have yet to be released. Drifter's instrumental single, Jet Black and Driftin'. And covers of rock and roll standards made famous by Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, Ricky Nelson, Richie Valens, and Gene Vincent. Okay, so it looks like that already that Abbey Road Studios already had some kind of a connection with Sun Records in Memphis. Let's see. WikiNet. The recording is the first white professionally recorded live rock and roll album that reached number 4 in the UK album chart, and it spent 31 weeks on the chart. A time when the chart was only seeing a top 10. That's pretty big. So there was no top 100, there was just a top 10. Richard originally marketed as a rebellious rock and roll singer in the style of Elvis Presley and Little Richard, with his backing group The Shadows, and he also dominated the British popular music scene with the pre-Beatles period of the late 1958s to early, during the period of the late 1958s to early 1960s, and his 1958 single Move It was often described as Britain's first authentic rock and roll song and record. As with the other existing rock acts in Britain, Richard's career was affected by the advent of the Beatles and the Mersey Sound in 1968 to 1964. He continued to be popular and have hits in the charts throughout the 1960s, although not at the level he had enjoyed before. Nor did doors open to him in the US market, and he was not considered as part of the British invasion, despite 4 Hot 100 hits between August 1963 to August 1964. The American public had little awareness of him. From what I've researched so far, seeing that Harry Greatrex and Norman Paramore both worked and changed Harry Webb from what he wanted to be into basically a British Elvis Presley. From what I'm seeing in the music videos and from what I was watching with his music, they basically turned him into an Elvis impersonator. Since the United States already had a superstar like Elvis Presley, the recording companies basically had no interest in signing him to the US market. For someone that idolized Little Richard at the beginning, I could see exactly what happened. Cliff Richard was one of the youngest starting rock musicians that is still alive today at 83. Now, I was watching several of his beginning songs. I've watched Move It. I was going to do a reaction video, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it. And I'm going to post it in the link into the bio and let you watch it, because that's better reaction than what I would, because of the fact that someone that entered the rock scene early, just after the forefathers of rock and roll that I've talked about in previous videos. He could be also talked about as maybe UK's first father of rock and roll. Now, what happened to somebody like that? I would have loved to see what he was like when he first came into the studio. And when you're looking at it, when you're looking at Move It, which is his first big hit, it placed number 4, but it never made it to the US market. And when you're looking at him, he has the Elvis style haircut. He has his suit on, and he's moving like Elvis Presley. And he's singing like Elvis Presley. And he's sneering at the camera like Elvis Presley. And he's looking away from the camera like Elvis Presley. And if somebody presented him to the US market and they're looking at him and they're looking at Elvis Presley, the current Elvis Presley is who the recording companies are going to take. Now, when people change somebody from who they are to who they shouldn't be, it affects them. It affects history. But what if Cliff Richards possibly had his name? I think Cliff Richards was fine, but I think the big problem was the name of the band, which changed the name to the Shadows. But the Drifters were already a big hit in the United States. So the problem, I don't think the problem was with Cliff Richards. I think the problem was with the name of the band. And now Cliff Richards is stuck because of the fact that everybody started molding him into Elvis Presley, and the Drifters is already a name of a band in the United States. So somebody got stuck in the middle. Somebody basically listened to too many people. I have personal experiences in my life to listening to people and going the wrong direction in life. And now he criticizes the music industry for being too commercial and not supporting their artists. And well, he went off to become a Christian rock singer, and was promoted by Billy Graham, the pastor, not Bill Graham, the promoter. So that's my video for today. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get this into my archive so I could be able to start working on it even more later on, once I have more time, and I could go right back through all of my rock and rollers and really start fine-tuning things. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I got you another rock and roller next week. I was gonna do Little Richard this week, but there's just so much on this guy, and I really wanted to make it a really special video next week because, you know, Thanksgiving's coming up. People's got to have something to watch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a comment in the comment section below. Have you ever heard of Cliff Richard? And if you haven't, listen to his music video and let me know what you think. I'd love to see what your reaction is in the comment section. If you like this video, share the video. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss another video. And until next time, keep on rocking.